Hello again, YouTube. So, if you remember what I was talking about in my most recent video, we are taking a small break from recording all of my album songs to now start getting a little bit more chronologically correct. So, this is going to be one of those first songs. I think we have three, if I remember correctly, from album listing, checking my notes, and checking some of my old set lists. I'm pretty sure we have about three songs to cover before we finish my album. So this is going to be one of those songs that's in that interim period. And here we go. It's been called many things over the years, but its official name is just Gots to Get. We started a band, we got it right. Started playing shows every night. I'm singing, baby. We made it big. Stopping saying to myself, I got to get wild, the getting's good. So now we're off, going like a shot, slowly rising, straight through the top. I'm singing, baby, look way, way. But every now and then I'll say, I got to get wild, getting's good. Stopping saying to myself, I got to get wild, the getting's good. So listen here, now I'm home, can't hardly breathe. I'm glad to see you, you're such a relief. I'm singing, baby, ooh, I miss you some, just a little bit. But every night around this time, I've got to get wild, the getting's good. Oh, I'm singing every night around this time. Got to get wild, the getting's. I've got to get wild, the getting's. I've got to get wild, the getting's good. Solo didn't go as well as I wanted to. My hands started immediately cramping up because I've had nothing but caffeine, no water today. But, yeah, so let's get into it. That is Gots to Get. Used to call it Gots to Get while the getting's good. Sometimes we just shorten it to Gots, but the official title has always been Gots to Get. So, let's talk about the song, right? First, we'll address where it was chronologically speaking. So I wrote this song probably after our third or fourth practice together. I remember after we finally kind of established who and what we were, right? So I don't know if I've talked about this yet. I don't think I have, but for a while, we were trying to operate as a traditional band, 4 people, 2 guitarists, bassist, and a drummer. And we struggled to really find a guitarist who fit in with us. We had some temporary ones, but we had a couple of practices where it was just us as a trio. And I found our dynamic was just much better. And after some tumultuous issues, we kind of just decided, you know what, let's just be a trio. You know, that kind of works. And it gave me motivation because I didn't have much confidence in my guitar abilities. So I was like really afraid of soloing, but kind of just ended up being like, fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway. And I got substantially better over time, even in the short period of time that my blues trio was together. And now I'm a lot more confident in doing it. Don't let the solo that you just heard kind of show you. Like I said, my hand just immediately started cramping up, and probably should have done a take or two to just warm up. So, yeah, chronologically speaking, this is about after my third or fourth time where we practice as just us as a trio. And I literally went home, wrote this song, called up my bassist, and was like, hey, we're going to do another practice this week because I have a new song to show us. And I think we did it like 2 or 3 days later. And that actually kind of started at the same time. We usually practice 1 time a week, but then we start practicing 2 times a week unless we had a show. And even then, sometimes we still did 2 practices, and then we'd immediately do a show after our second practice. We kind of just do a quick little rehearsal. So yeah, that covers where chronologically. So this is early. This is, if we're trying to fit things in the timetable, this is about halfway through my albums. So we have Missed the Train, Tease to Please, Chicago Storms had already been shown. Bright Lights, Big City wasn't finished yet, but it was being shown to the band. So this is probably somewhere in between that time period of Chicago Storms and Chicago Storms and Bright Lights, Big City. So that addresses that. So let's talk about the song itself, right? So this song is hands down one of my all-time favorite. I always have good energy for it. This is always the first song I usually show to people whenever anyone's like, let me hear one of the originals. I'm like, okay, sit back, we got you. And it's funny because even when I play it acoustically and it's just me, I think it still really captures the energy and the vibe of just like when you have a good group of people that you're with and you guys really love what you do, both from the music aspect and actually working together. You know, it's just that good of a feeling. And, you know, it's just standard blues and B. It's got a good pace to it. And it's, man, I used to have so much fun with this. This song inspired me to actually get good at soloing, to be honest. And to this day, almost every time I play this song with a band or even when I'm just doing some improv stuff with open mics and shit, I still always like lay out these fucking solos because I just love doing it. So obviously, if we're going to talk about the song itself, we need to address how did we write the song, right? So obviously it was during that time period where we're rehearsing, we're getting things together. We actually just started playing some shows, if I remember correctly. So obviously it was fresh in my mind. You know, I'm just like, hey, I like being in a band. I'm going to talk about being in a band. And the first lines, we started a band, we got it right, started playing shows every night. 100% all true. Of all the songs that I have around this time period, this is the one where it's like complete, raw, exactly how I want it to be. There were virtually no edits. Everything kind of just flowed. This was like, if we're talking on a songwriter standpoint, this was the first time that I recall in my songwriting journey where I tapped in 100%. I was in that flow state and everything was right. From the way I played the chords to the lyrical content to the delivery of the vocal line. All of it is exactly how I imagined and how I created it. So that was awesome. The band loved it. We start playing this immediately, virtually after that first practice. This was not a song where we were like, hey, let's sit on it for a little bit. We was like, nope, immediately started doing it live. Now, interesting thing about that, so we'll talk about the live stuff real quick before we start talking about the album. Live, we used to do basically a warm-up kind of thing. Sometimes we did it as our sound check, and then actually a couple of times we integrated it, into our actual sets. What we used to do is, I don't know why I did this, and I don't know if I'll ever bring this up again, so I guess I'll have to like really make this like clear. When I was writing my albums, when I was planning my albums, I should say, I always wanted 2 things besides my songs. I wanted one song that we all wrote together or was primarily from one of my other bandmates, and I wanted an instrumental. I don't know why. Maybe it was just something to like, you know, show that we could jam. And I always think that was the thing that we lacked. Oh, you unhappy with what I'm saying, boy? I don't know if you guys heard his little I just wanted to have something that showcased that we could do stuff. And instrumentals were like kind of a thing. So all of our instrumentals came organically. We would just jam. and the one that we came up with, remember my bass player titled it, it was Swamp Thing. And it was blues in A. So it was just like a fast blues riff in A. Me and him would alternate solos, usually 2 times, and then we would stop, and our drummer would do a drum solo. And then after a little bit, however long, we would shift keys to B, and we would immediately go into Gots to Get. Because how the song started was he would just start with the drum beat, and then we would go in together. So we kind of took... Can you not, please? I don't want to redo this. So what we would do is we would have this little jam session on stage, and we kind of talk. And I remember the first time that we were on TV, we actually did this, and we kind of tried to make it seem like it wasn't planned. But our drummer started doing a drum beat, and I look over my bass, and I'm like, "Hey, this sounds like a good beat. You want to come up with something?" Ethan's like, "Yeah, let's do this." Ethan's my bass player, and we were just like, "All right, let's do it. 1, 2, 3, 4," and then we started going into Gots to Get. We got a good reception from that, so we kind of integrated that from time to time. But usually we would do our instrumental as our sound check, and I would just do some like random lyrics on the side. So that's how we incorporated the song into our live sets. And I could tell you for firsthand experience, that song always, and I mean always, got the best reception. We had good energy for it. It was a simple idea that everyone, even if you're not a musician, you can just relate to being in a good, positive environment and loving what you're doing. And all 3 of us were always engaged. My drummer would do this nice little like crazy kind of fill section when we did that repeat of every night around this time, got to get while the getting's, got to get while the getting's, got to get while the getting's good. And then my bass player would always move around, and he would do nice little stuff. And then I'd have my solo, and obviously I would hold that that last note, that so like the whole time the crowd is engaged and enjoyed it. And I could safely say, without a doubt, this was our most iconic song. This is our most audience engaged song, and overall, probably our best song. So I always have a soft spot for it. I love it. And you're probably wondering then, why isn't this on the album? This is going to take up a little bit of time. This is going to explain my thought process on things, and this may also lead into something I'm planning on doing in the future. But let's set the stage, right? So I already had about half of the album that I ended up pushing out done. And then we started writing some other stuff. And I was like, yeah, this song is too good to put on our demo EP kind of thing. Because that's what this album really was. It was more of an EP to shop around as a demo and not really as something that would sustain musical interest. This is something that would get us on the radar, and then we would follow this up immediately after with an album to really kind of keep you on radar. What I was worried about was putting all of our eggs in one basket, and I knew this song was easily single material, headliner material, and like the most radio play that we could get. So I was like, no, don't want to put this on the EP. This is going to be our title track and our headline thing when we release our album. That was a really stupid mistake because it didn't end up releasing another album. But later on, as I realized, years later, another reason why I didn't want to put it on this EP is because this EP wasn't just a prototype of what our albums were going to be. It was a bit of a snapshot of time. And the album that I was writing after was Gots to Get was kind of the logical next step. So I was kind of planning as this being on my first official album. And now, chronologically speaking, this would be the start of my second album. So my second album, I'm going to talk about this briefly. If our first album is my one EP that has been released, that is showcasing early days of musicianship, early days of band stuff, and also young, overconfident swagger that doesn't really know reality yet and hasn't really kind of, the dream is still stuck in the head, so you're not really thinking objectively, right? The second album is, okay, this isn't just a phase. You're taking this seriously. Okay, you actually have some skill into what you're doing. And you know what? Like, you're getting better as you're doing it. So maybe this dream isn't that much of a dream. Maybe it's more of a goal that's going to take a lot of dedication to get there. So all in all, my musicianship got better in a very short period of time, and Gots to Get was supposed to be that ship to build off of. I have some other songs, all the other songs that I'm going to do before we finish this album. So now 2 more. Were supposed to be part of my second album and to show this transition. So going back to it, I think I was playing a little bit too long term and didn't really understand the value of having a song like this on my EP. If I could go back and do things again, I wouldn't put this song on my EP. I would completely scratch the EP idea, and I would have just released an actual solid album. I would have combined the, 6 songs that I had on my EP with 6 songs that I had onto what would have been my first real album, and make one solid album. And I would have kind of done like an A and B side, like Miss the Train Blues, Tease the Please. Everything that was on my first album would have been my A side, which doesn't make sense because it's not the best material. But the B side is a huge tonal shift in the sense of we're harder, we're better as musicians, and kind of start flipping the script a little bit of like, hey, we're combining 2 different eras into one. And it's weird to think that they're eras when they're months apart. They're less than a year apart. It just showed that much, creative ability between all of us. So that's a mistake that I made, and that's a mistake I'll have to live with. But Gots to Get is one of those songs where every fucking time I do it, it just perfectly encapsulates how I was at that time period. And I love doing it. And every time I play it, every time I fucking play it, I always get a good response. And everyone's just like, oh, maybe you're not blowing smoke when you say you're a professional musician. Like, maybe we should take you seriously. And the irony is that it's such a simple song. It's blues and B, and it just has very soulful, raw as in like unedited, it's just a pure positive emotion of just like, I fucking love what I'm doing and I want you to know that I love it. And it's got good interpretations. I think everyone could kind of get where it's coming from. So on that note then, since it was really mostly a live song, there's not really much to say. Damn, it's getting really dark in here. Sorry, the sun was out earlier. It's getting to that point now where it's just like, there's no album analytics, but the live was always good. So I would just imagine that if we did have this on my album, or we did have an actual recording to play off of, we would have gotten some really good feedback on it. I'm going to turn the light on now, of course, towards the end where it doesn't really matter. But yeah, so we have 2 more songs to cover. This is the only day off that I really have in a while, so don't be surprised if I record like 2 or 3 videos and then you're asking why do I look the same and I'm releasing shit, once every week. But yeah, so 2 more songs, then we will return with finishing the album, then we will do an album review, and then I'm going to go into more detail about my concept of my second album, and I'll drop little hints about that and kind of just where my mentality is with these next 2 songs as well, because like I said, we're kind of starting a new era. We're starting a more refined musicianship, and my band is tighter, so there's more flourishment of these ideas, and we can kind of get things going. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this one. I don't know how I dragged this out to 20 minutes when like there's a whole aspect of it that I don't need to talk about because it wasn't on an album, it wasn't on anything. But yeah, thank you guys very much. Couple more videos and then we'll be finishing up the album. So keep your ears open.